And we're back in the studios. You just listened to Mary Davison, who is going to be here in Miami at the ground on April 25th. And as I announced earlier, we're here with Glenn and Danny from Fetish Factory. Almost happy birthday, right? It's almost 30 years of
That's right.
Fetish Factory. That's such an accomplishment.
Yeah, we did. We started in 1995, and it was actually May of 1995, and so this is 30 years.
Whoa. And when you started, because let's, for people that are not familiar with what Fetish Factory is, you guys started as a store, right? And then you introduced the party concept, right?
Right. So basically, Fetish Factory was started as a whim. We were both exiting out of a healthcare career, and at the time, I was selling a big company. Donna was actually employed by me, and at the time of selling, I was pushed into a situation where I could stick around and work as a consultant for the old company that I sold, or I could make a move because I had a 5 year non compete. I was not really able to go back into my career other than work for the company I sold to.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided because we could, we would do it on a whim for the fun. So it's not the right way to start a business, but it was actually an exciting time for us to try to do something that didn't exist. And our objective was to create a movement. So the store was actually only created so that we could steal clothes out of the store and afford the kind of outfits that we love to wear. And then our next objective was to try to spread our wings with the community. And so we then morphed into parties and social networks and other things.
And for you as an individual, right? Like, how was your journey? How did you get interested in like the fetish community? And was it the fashion, the lifestyle, both?
Well, I all right, I'll fess up. So I'm actually quite a bit of a deviant. I will say it's not my fault. As young as anybody would listen and laugh about this. As a kid, I was living in Florida when Florida in the 70s, early 70s, and I literally was a bit of a hypersexed kid. I was young. I was maybe 10. And me and a friend used to run around collecting bottles to return to these convenience stores that would give us money. And we'd stand out in front of the convenience store, and instead of asking people like adults walking in, they'd say, "What do you want, kid? Beer?" And we'd say, "No, we want Playboy." And and they thought we were crazy, and we were. And we would sit there and literally lose our minds trying to understand what that devil's triangle was, because back then in Playboy, they weren't allowed to show a vagina. So honestly, it was the big mystery, and it really
Mm-hmm.
was something we just couldn't understand, and we were wondering what it was all about. Then, being adventurous, we were out in the woods one time, and we fell upon a stash of German fetish porn magazines. And that was an impressionable time as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when I got the full Monty of what is down there, because they shave and you get to see a vagina. So that was the end of me. Once that happened to me, I will honestly tell you, I was done. No turning back. I became who I was,
Mm-hmm.
and I wouldn't say I obsessed on it, but it was something that was very special to me. So I was very sneaky with keeping the stash, and I was trying to get past it, but then moved to New York after Florida. That didn't help because my dad had a business in the city, and then I got an opportunity to work with my dad in the city, and then found myself to 42nd Street, and
Mm-hmm.
then ended up watching 8 millimeter fetish porn, which is the kind of 8 millimeters, the kind of film that you hear click, 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 click.
Mm-hmm.
That's and being in a little booth as a kid watching this stuff turned me into something else. And I just really will say I have no regrets, but I will say that it's a piece of my heart that would never go away. And just like they try to change people, trans people and gay people, and try to convince them that there's a way out, same as fetish. Once it's in you, that's who you are. You're not going to change. So I kept that secret little life for quite some time, even got married. I know we're getting ahead of myself, but I'm going to finish this by saying went through a marriage, failed, and then with Donna, my partner now, was able to actually live my life over again. So I actually had a second life by having the opportunity with all my experience and all my craziness to be able to infuse that into the business.
And something that, I mean, I have, I've been part of the community some years ago, like, and I was able to experience how Fetish Factory uh, works and lives and breathes, right? Like from the store to the parties, and something that I also always found very interesting. It's like, in a way, it's like a family business, right? Like,
Absolutely.
and I always was curious, like, would this work if your partner wasn't as involved as you in the community?
And I would say yes. I mean, the one thing that I will say for our success is that both of us are business minded,
Hmm.
and a lot of businesses fail that are cultural and or maybe for passion. A lot of reasons for failure is because you don't run it like a business. So you put your heart into it, but you cave because you don't run it like a business. So we put our hearts into it and our kinks into it, but we ran it like a business, and we would not fail. And no matter what, we were falling on our face after taking too many clothes out of the store and realized, hey, we can't play this game anymore, and we really need to put our heads in it. But so Donna, I introduced Donna into this whole fetish world once we were in when we met when we were in our healthcare business. I met her then, introduced her. She was open to the idea, and that was before we started the store. So yeah, it
Hmm.
was. I wouldn't have done it without her. I can say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, this started 30 years ago. And as you said, it was something out of passion, not really like a business, but you guys are very business oriented, as you were saying, like, because
Right.
you made it last 30 years, which is a big accomplishment.
Thank you.
Um, when you started Fetish Factory, did you think that it was gonna last this long,
No,
or?
that's a great question. No, I honestly thought that this was just going to be my 5 years. My actual plan was to go back and murder the company that bought me and take all their business.
Hmm.
But over time, this actually hit my heart way more than anything else I've ever done, and it was a job, and it became such a challenge. There was so many hurdles, and when I compare and I laugh about how much money I made in owning a pharmacy company, a healthcare company, and how hard did I work, and compare it to what I do now, I still am challenged. And Danny will be the first one to say, the two of us are such lunatics that we won't quit, and he is the succession right here, and I'm handing off the nightmare because I'm telling you, I put in my time. I'm graduating, so I can say that it really is kind of remarkable that we made it. Even after the 5 years, it was time. I had to make a decision. Am I going to go back into my healthcare? And I said, hell no, I'm not doing it. I'm going to just float my boat, do this, focus, stay focused, and try to not go back to my career. And interestingly enough, I chose pharmacy for a reason. I'm an entrepreneurial kind of person. I never really want to be stuck doing anything. I would rather fall on my face than actually be handed a job that I can succeed. So I knew nothing about fetish as a business. I only knew about the kink part, which is in my heart. So it was a challenge because back then they didn't even have computers for running a business. So we did inventory by hand. We actually used the cash register. I didn't even know how to use a cash register. Donna had worked in a grocery store when she was a kid. She said, I think I can do it. And so we weaseled our way. I think what it really comes down to is that because we were underdogs, the motivation was, we were really motivated by the enthusiasm of the alt crowd and the alternative world of people cheering us on for doing something no one else ever did and no one else that will ever do what we're doing at a time where no one thought, like, even I would say, everyone that I told what I was going to do, they all said, you're going to fail. To me, tell me that all day long and I will succeed. Like a kid, if you tell them, don't go in that cabinet, there's candy. Well, guess what? They're going to go get the candy. They're just going to do it. They don't care if they get beat. They're going to do it. And that's me. I appreciated people doubting me. I appreciated the impact of the enthusiasm of the people that were curious about what we were doing. And I'll be honest with you, when we started, we were really extreme. We were way more extreme than we are now. We were BDSM. Our beginning events were all S&M parties, BDSM parties. But we kind of scared away more people than we attracted and realized in order to carve a niche, it was more than just the party. And it was more than just the store. It was the culture. It was what a movement of creating music, visuals, and a collection of people that really have nothing in common other than they all think alike and they all have this little crazy place in their heart that they're interested in, which was this glam fetish idea. So that's when we moved to the strict dress code.
And how was it to get your first vendors? You know, like you were new in the industry and
All
there
of
was
this is
no
bringing.
internet.
I'm sorry, but you're just like bringing back nostalgia for me, because
I'm like, I
I.
want to know how
Oh
was
yeah,
it?
no. I'm glad you're asking because I have it all vivid in my head. It's hard to even say that I remember everything, a little bit and everything. So the vendor part was funny. I can tell you this, and how things flipped on us. So in the beginning, we didn't even know where to buy this stuff. We just thought, okay, we're just going to buy it here somewhere. Someone must sell this stuff. But no one in the States sold it. So we realized, okay, good, we'll be the only ones. So we actually started trying to reach out to the vendors. Most of them were in London.
Hmm.
I kid you not, in the world, 10 designers. Now, thousands and thousands of designers. But 10 designers. We get we don't even know how to dial out of the country. We were so ignorant back then. And I can tell you I wasn't the only one. If you would ask
No.
anyone, how do you call London or how do you call? So you have to know what the country code is and then the city code. So we would call them and they wouldn't pick up the phone because we're so ignorant we didn't realize the time change. We're calling them, at a time like in the afternoon, but they're closed. So we finally reach out to them and we're not getting anywhere. So we decide we're flying into London. So we fly
Hmm.
to London and we attended a party that I will tell you is my influences. My biggest impression was a thing called the Rubber Ball, a magazine called Skin 2, which was a $20 glossy that covered the whole rubber clubbing and rubber kink scene. Was actually a very influential magazine for us to read about how the fashion and how the culture in London, who were way ahead of us.
Hmm.
And we said to ourselves, this doesn't exist here. Why doesn't exist here? Nobody wants to take a chance. We'll do it. So we ended up getting opportunities to meet with some of the designers. And here's the funny part. You would think in this day and age, you can go to anyone and say, I want to buy from you, and they will sell to you. Back in the old days, it was done in Bradstreet. Do you have credit? Do we think you're worthy of being our, they call it a stockist, and that would be someone who represents a product line. They would beat us up and interrogate us. And we're like, look, we're the ones with the money. Don't be like busting us about
Yeah.
what we know. No, we're not going to let you represent unless you're knowledgeable, unless you guys have financed yourselves well enough to be able to build a store and actually display our product the way we want it displayed, and you're selling it to people with knowledge and teaching them what this is all about. So it was much more than just like if you were selling lighters or selling just typical clothes.
Hmm.
I laugh about it because, well, let me just continue with that answer. So we did go to these designers, and we thought, as delusional as we thought we were going to go to London, and we were going to go to the Fetish Factory, and it was going to be like what you see here, a giant factory.
Hmm.
And we thought that, these stores must be like, everything has got to be like huge there. Because in the magazine, it looked like it was such a big deal. I mean, one of the first designers we went into the elevator. The elevator opened up into the lady's apartment. It was a studio. The lady had nowhere for us to sit, so we all sat on the ground in her apartment, and she had like a hot plate to cook her food. Lucky she had a bathroom in there. And that was one of our best designers in the beginning. And then we went to another designer who Skin 2 actually had their own clothing line at the time. And I swear there was like 3 people working in there, and it was a tiny space, small, just a tiny, like the size of a bedroom. That's how big it was. And when we opened our store, And when we had Europeans see what we were doing, they were floored because a store in London, the cost is like New York.
Hmm.
Just like in Miami, you go to South Beach, these stores are like little tiny little hole in a wall, and it's only because rents are so high. We were able to afford a bigger space, and we were able to offer a larger range, and we were able to diversify what we do. So it was a challenge finding vendors and getting them to trust us and being able to represent.
And also, as you were talking about displaying, right? Um, the store, when you started, was it the same location as you
No,
have now? No.
no, and there's so many funny things that go off of these questions. I hate to go on tangents.
No, no, go ahead.
Okay, so we decide we're going to start Fetish Factory, so we come up with the name. All right, so now we have the name, and now we're saying we need to get a lease. And I think I shared it with you that
Hmm.
that we had a lot of hurdles. So we first go to a bank and we tell them, yeah, we're opening a bank. What's the name of the company? We tell them, you need the corporate papers. Or here's the corporate papers. What is this Fetish Factory? There's no way we're going to let you bank here. And they kicked us out. And then it was like, what? They don't. So we literally knocked on bank after bank after bank, and until we got. There was an old little bank in town. It was a Florida bank called Flagler Federal. That was before Nations and before Bank of America. They
Hmm.
let us in. And then it was the same thing with credit card processing. They did not want any, no way, we're not letting you collect money. You're the devil. And we were like, are you kidding me? This is a business.
We're not selling guns,
Yes,
like
yes.
not real guns.
And the funniest part is I'll lay this one on you. I'm in the Miami airport and I'm flying in, and we had been turned down by Citibank. So I have a Citibank credit card, and I say to Citibank when I walk into the Citibank when they deny me, I said, "Here, I'm showing you. I'm a customer of Citibank. Why would you not let me be a business of Citibank? We just don't want you." And then I'm in the Miami airport, and I'm going down the escalator, and I see this incredible. You're a marketing person, so you'll love this. I see this billboard, and this showing a woman's closet, and it's killer, shoe after shoe after shoe after shoe, like millions of shoes, and it says, "Was it the fetish or was it the points?" So what they were really trying to say is this lady is buying all the shoes because she's getting points, and this was back actually at a time where no other bank was offering rewards points, which is
Hmm.
now all banks do that.
Yeah,
So it was a joke on me. So I ripped into Citibank about how is it that you can advertise the word fetish and talk about it?
you can profit from it.
Yeah, and I'm not allowed to be fetish. And they're like, that's right. That's just the way it is. So, yeah, it's weird.
That's crazy. And so, when you got those first orders here, how did you get them? Did you come back from London with the things in your suitcases, or you?
Okay. So, okay, yeah. In the beginning, we actually smuggled,
Hmm.
and we were scared as hell because we knew we'd get in big trouble. And we had all this stuff smuggling it in. But then we had to start ordering. Back then, you actually had to import. Today, anybody that imports products, they just use UPS or FedEx. They ship it through UPS and FedEx and UPS have what's called a customs house brokerage. And a customs house brokerage is nicknamed customs, and they are the ones who clear your package.
Hmm.
There's all these forms, tariff codes, all this stuff you need to know about. It's called harmonized classification code. You need to, so we had to learn all about what does it mean to import, posting a bond for the package to come in, having the package land in a center, and then having it another carrier come and grab it from there. It was very complicated. And we learned all about that. Now, that changed once UPS started realizing we can start buying up customs house brokerage firms and make it part of our package to people that want to be in this business of importing. So that was the trouble back in the day.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then, how was your first party as Fetish Factory? After you had the store, right?
Yes.
And then you needed to give people a place to use the clothes freely.
Yes.
So you started the party.
So, all right. So I would like to just digress and just bring this up. So
Hmm.
before we actually did the store, we test marketed. So
Hmm.
how we test marketed is we got some of these clothes ordered in from London, and we would go down to South Beach, and we would run around the clubs in rubber. And I cannot even tell you, we were looked at like we were aliens. I mean, people were just like pointing at us, looking at us like, and we're just wearing shiny clothes, but
Mm-hmm.
no one's ever seen anything like rubber. So people would come up and touch us. I mean, that's not consensual, but we didn't care. Go ahead, any touch is good touch, fine. Well, let's go for it. So we would be in the clubs dancing, and we would actually realize that these people were really, really intrigued and curious and thought we were bold and brazen, and they wanted to be too. So they sort of jumped into the game and wanted to be a part of this early stage of this movement. And we kind of, it was a contagious thing where we literally wanted people to take a piece, once we got started, we would influence people to wear these clothes and come out and party with us. And we would run around the clubs in Fort Lauderdale and even West Palm and down in South Beach. So we started getting people to follow the idea, and we started faltering as a store. And we said, these people would come up to us. This is funny. They'd come up to us and they would say, "We just came to your store and we bought these clothes, and yeah, we had sex with it and we chased each other on the house with it. And now we want to know what to do. What do we do now?" And I'm like, "What do you mean, what do you do now? What do I look like? I sold you some clothes. Leave me alone." I said, "Do you do that every time you buy sneakers? Do you go back to the sneaker place?" "Well, I was walking around and now where do I run?" You know what? So we thought it was actually bizarre, but we realized they're knocking on our door telling us, "It's your problem. You created it. Now finish it. Finish what you started." So we started the party. But as I said, we were extreme. We didn't realize that we were actually that extreme until we started realizing every time we'd throw a party, there'd be a whole bunch of new faces. It's like, what happened to the other people that were here last party? Wow, they're scared shit. They're not coming back. So, so we actually had to actually start realizing that how are we going to be different? Because these parties, like dungeon parties, have been going on forever. I take no credit for that. But what I do take credit for is taking a stand and saying, you're not coming in this party unless you are contributing to the party in the sense of we're here to see and be seen. There's
Mm-hmm.
two sides to this. We're not just going to come here and show you us and you get off on seeing me without me seeing you. So it was an argument that we made. And I will tell you that we lost half of our customers of our store by going to strict dress code. But then it was insane. We started our parties in the beginning with maybe 50 people in the first year. By the second year, we had almost 200 people. And then we went strict dress code. We went from 200 people to 600 people. And this was in our the first 3 years. By the time we hit 1998, we were doing 800 people at every monthly party. Strict
Wow.
dress code, turning away people like crazy. By the time we hit 2000, we were at 1,000 people at every event. So as hard as it is to say, and this is Danny's challenge, is to
Mm-hmm.
bring it all back. Come on, they got to come back to roost. They're out there somewhere. Our average parties right now, if we're lucky, are probably hovering 400 to 500. If we're and that's there's a lot of reasons for it that I can't explain, but I can say that we just were something completely different, and I think a lot of people were excited about it being different. The goth and alternative crowd, we realized that what we had in common with them was they spend all day worrying about what are they going to wear. They
Yeah.
spend all night dealing with putting on their face and making their hair and which crazy shoes am I going to wear and what statement am I going to make. So the goth and alternative community was ours to chase because they would pay attention. Same as the ravers. The
Mm-hmm.
ravers wanted to dress whacked and crazy. The only difference with the ravers were they were crafters and they knew how to make things. So they were harder to actually adopt until we started finding things that they liked. And we still deal with the goth industrial crowd, and we cater to them, and we also do cater to the raver crowd, and the grown up ravers are all called festival people now. So
Yeah.
it's the same crowd, just older.
So let's take a little break, listen to a song, and then we're gonna come
Lovely.
back and talk more about how everything evolved
Okay.
after 30 years. So let's
Fantastic.
listen to pretty chill song by Boy Harsher. Just a Western. It's a remix by Boy Harsher, actually. and we are back here in the studios. Um, you just listened to Just a Western by Nilufer Yanya. I hope that's how you pronounce it. And it's a Boy Harsher remix. And yeah, if you just tuned in, I'm here with Glenn and Danny from Fetish Factory. And we are talking about the 30-year anniversary of Fetish Factory. We already went through like the time machine, and we went to the beginnings of Fetish Factory. And now, next month, you guys are going to be celebrating the 30 years. And something amazing that you guys do is like, it's not just one night, it's like several days of like
A
celebrating.
long weekend,
Yeah, it's for Memorial Day weekend.
right?
When did you guys started with the celebrations?
So we waited until we hit the 10-year mark.
Mm-hmm.
And we said to ourselves, okay, this is worth more than just an event. It's got to be something bigger than just one event. So it's interesting, and I'm not sure Danny even remembers this one, but we were going to do it as a 10-year anniversary one event. And one of the clubs that we were working with, which helped us a lot to become big and also be big in the LGBT community, is the Coliseum nightclub, which is a big gay club. But it was one of these gay clubs that really was a mixed crowd. It was a really fun, Salvation kind of a mixed crowd
Mm-hmm.
back in the day. So he laughed at me and he said, "You're selling yourself short, and you're selling your community short. How could you possibly ask people to come to town for one night? You should at least do 2 nights." And so he convinces me to do 2 nights, and he's like, "How could you only do 2 nights, and where are they going to stay? You need to find a hotel." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "I'm just, I'm not." I said, I don't know anything about any of that." He goes, "Oh, sure you do." He goes, "Let me make some phone calls." So he got us an access into the hotel, which is actually kind of funny because we are still banned 30 years later. And
Oh
I'll
my
I'll
gosh.
tell you about this. Is that it was an Embassy Suites property on 17th Street Causeway in is Fort Lauderdale as it gets. I mean, it's close to the beach, beautiful property, and we host our event. We end up doing 3 nights. We never ever could dream, how do we do 3 nights in a row?
Mm-hmm.
But we ended up scheduling 3 nights, and we were floored. We literally actually we didn't take over 100% of that hotel. We never thought we could, but we ended up with about half the hotel, and we had people from all over the world. And we have friends with our friends who are probably, I would say, is another one of my biggest influences, and I would say my biggest admiration is to our friends. There's Alan and David from Torture Garden,
Mm-hmm.
and Torture Garden is beyond big, and Torture Garden is worldwide. But we were super close with those guys because we met them when we went to the Rubber Ball in '95. When we went to the Torture Garden party, they were 200 large. Now they're thousands, and they do multiple events everywhere all over the world.
Wow.
But I can say that we end up with the hotel deal. We have all these lunatics from all over the world there, and the Torture Garden guys came, and we did their fashion show, and they drew, which was a big deal and a super underground thing, was the body modification crowd.
Oh yeah.
These are people that put implants in their bodies. I mean, it's no big deal now. You see this stuff, but we're talking about, before people had these stretched ears and crazy like things that they do to themselves. Talking about face tattoos
Yeah.
30 years ago. Now face tattoos are no big deal, but I'm talking about a whole face, and these are was a wild crowd, and we hosted that event, and it was a huge success, and the world realized that Fetish Factory and Fort Lauderdale and the United States is absolutely not to be missed. And we followed that the following year with another grand event, and these events were talked about all over the world for a reason, because by the time we got to our second event, we were taking over hotels. We were buying hotels. And when you buy a hotel, and I should go back to telling you what happened to us.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you,
So
Liam.
what ended up happening by only having half the hotel, let me just say a few things that were humorous that happened that time. So some of these dominatrix girls were at the bar out in the pool, and they're hitting on the bartender. And they're saying all these things they're going to do to bad things they're going to do to her. And this is a woman hitting on a woman, and we didn't think that should be a big deal. But that woman ended up suing the hotel, and that one of the
Oh, the
settlements.
bartender?
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
the
In
hotel?
hospitality, it's strange, but they have to protect their own.
Hmm.
And this lady claims she was put in harm's way, so the hotel got sued. And it turns out that that resulted in a lawsuit, and the lawsuit settlement says you can never have Fetish Factory at this building ever again. This is an agreement you must make. And it's proven by the fact that I've gone back there 10 years later and 20 years later and tried to get the hotel, and they say yes, and they call me back and say no, and tell me that they found something that says you can't ever come back. Other things that happened that time was
Wow.
the two biggest visionaries in the fetish world with the glossy I told you was Tim Woodward, owned Skin 2 magazine, and
Hmm.
his rival was a guy named now I'm spacing out. It's Marquee Magazine, O Magazine, and Heavy Rubber Magazine. Peter Sersnick, he's a German guy. The two of these people did. I will get you a magazine, and you will keep it as a keepsake. You will love me for this magazine.
I would love
It's
that.
timeless, and it's so beautiful. So we had the two of them come to the party. They wanted to support us, and they came out. What I didn't realize was, you know how people fight other people's battles, so that some people that were loyal to Skin 2 thought that in order to show loyalty, I won't look at Marquee Magazine. I'm a Skin 2 guy. Then there was the same group of people in Europe that were Marquee people, and they were like, forget Skin 2. And then they started claiming that these two guys will kill each other if they were ever in the same room together. I didn't know anything about any of this until the two of them show up to the party, and the people are saying, "What did you do? Did they know? Did you know that you invited the arch enemy of the other guy?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't realize I created a problem."
Hmm.
Only to go up to these guys and apologize, only to find out that they don't even know each other. They know of each other, and
Oh my God.
they know about the armies,
Hmm.
and that they can't control these people, and they actually. I mean, I wish I could find the photos of having them hanging out together and people like pointing like, oh my God, this is like insane. You got the two biggest enemies of each other ready to kill each other right here at this party. What are you doing? So it was kind of funny. But those guys then back wrote about the event in their glossy magazines, and then we started becoming really, really popular because of we were super organized. We knew that if we run a really organized event, a responsible person would appreciate organization. And organization to us was doing it right, dotting the I's, crossing the T's, having an answer to any possible question that can come up. And we would provide answers before they even got there by sharing it. We were early adopters to the internet. We were online in 97. So we were actually, we had a website in 97 and started selling in 98. But I can say that event propelled us. Doing the hotel buyouts changed the dynamic of the party, where we actually were providing a safe space, which we didn't realize was so important, but now realize it's all too important to have a safe place for an alternative lifestyle crowd to go and join hands and come together. And then it became like a family reunion. Every year, the crowd would come back, they would bring friends, and we'd bring new people. And it just blew up. It just kept it like it's a cogwheel. It just continues to roll forward. And this is our 20th time we're doing the monster event. So it's a big deal.
And so now I know you and Donna are part time or most of the month in North Carolina or South Carolina?
We're in North Carolina,
North Carolina.
Asheville. Yeah.
In Asheville. I love Asheville.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And you have actually built an animal sanctuary, right? Or
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah. So we have 80 acres. Well, we have about 100 acres. We live on 20 acres, but right down the street we bought we bought a beautiful farm that has a beautiful Airbnb, an old 1878 historic Victorian farmhouse. So it's gorgeous.
Wow.
So we came up with an idea that if we buy this property, we would have an opportunity to make our property a rescue for animals. And we said, well, how the hell are you going to afford to do this? Fix up this house, turn it into an Airbnb, generate money from the Airbnb, and use that money to pay for the vets, and use that
That
money
are
to
pretty
pay for the
expensive.
food. Yes, let me tell you, we're constantly, can we buy food? What are we going to do now? Should we take them to the vet? And we've learned how to do a lot of what we used to do with vets with our animals because we're really schooled and have
Mhm.
experience. But I can say that we really, it's heartfelt for us to be able to do what we're doing now, and I wouldn't be able to do it without Danny
And
at
yeah.
all. Would never be able to do it. Danny has been in and out of every job at Fetish Factory, not just the store, but actually out at the events as well. Val as well, Danny's partner, who Danny met when
Working
Danny
at
was when Danny was a go-go dancer, and Danny in Donna's phone, his name is Danny Dancer. That's his name in Donna's phone. But the two of them met, and the two of them were our top dancers, and Val is still our top lead performer, our top dancer. Everyone loves her.
She's
Danny,
amazing.
yeah, Danny retired from dancing, but we always talk about putting him back in his rubber damn pants and get him on that box.
He makes some stage appearances, though, for the blood show.
May I give some funny story about Danny? Because
Yeah,
this
I
is
would love to
hysterical.
hear.
So we're doing a party. We were still screaming. There was a club, and anybody listening may remember Club Exit in Hollywood. It was a historic building. It was like 2 stories, and it had all these rooms. And it was a brothel back in the early days. Then the army took it during the war, and it turns back into this club. And we start throwing these monster parties, and they were like raves as a fetish party. Danny's on the dance box dancing. Danny dances like goddamn Michael Jackson. His damn arms go flailing. He's all over the place. He's jumping, and his arm hits a parcan, which is a light that is supposed to keep him lit. The parcan was attached, but there was a rave that was doing raves in there too, and those idiot ravers went and moved our light and didn't put it back right, and they taped it back on instead of
my
putting it
gosh.
on with a C-clamp. Danny hits the damn thing, hits it. Apparently it went over the dance floor, and then it came down and hit this poor lesbian girl in the head, and she was quite butch, and she was on the ground, and everyone comes running over to me and said, "You better go run over there." Danny's still dancing. He's not going to stop. So I go over there, and they tell me, "You need to talk to this girl. Listen, this is a huge liability. We need to make sure she's okay." So I'm standing over her, and I'm like trying to like give her a little, like touch her and just say, "Are you okay?" And she's kind of like, her eyes are rolling, and she opens her eyes and she looks at me and she says, "You're the organizer of this event," and sticks her hand out and grabs me by the throat and starts to pull me down to the ground.
gosh.
And I'm like, this lady will kill me. And I I break away from her, and I'm like, please, let me bring you to the bar and we'll get you a drink. And turns out
Or
that she,
100.
yeah.
Open bar.
Yeah, Danny, help! So we ended up bringing her to the bar. She mellowed out until I told her, let's get the owner. And this owner guy was obnoxious. He didn't have respect for anyone. I went in there and told him, look, we need to talk with this lady and make sure she's okay and everything's fine. And he didn't want to deal with her, and she was really upset. But turns out she was a great customer after that. She came back. She never actually came after us or did anything terrible. She realized it was an accident, but it was a really funny story, and I had to bring it up.
Yeah.
Oh man, I thought you were gonna bring out the bad one. That's not even like the most terrible thing.
No,
That's
go
like
ahead, and
it's
please.
immediate,
Will you please chime in? Because I think people would like to lighten this up and talk about these funny things.
There was this one time when you guys already were doing events at the Manor. You guys were doing some kind of, it was a Christmas event actually. And at the time you had the go-go dancers by the wall, and at the wall there was nothing but mirrors. And I was up there, doing the Lord's work, and just giving it my all. And at the time I was still wearing latex. And I just did some sort of split or threw my leg up in the air.
I remember.
And I'm talking about in front of everybody. My pants just went blah. And if you don't know how latex rips, it doesn't just do a little bit of a tear. It just it vanishes. Okay, it just does this. And
It blows out
it
like a
just
balloon.
blows up like a balloon, exactly. And in front of everybody, I literally just like had to cover what was left of my dignity. And I thought if I turn around, I'll be okay. The back of the pants are still there. And boy, was I wrong, because
Not
the
so much.
mirror just saw me doing this, and everybody in the back was just seeing my ass. And it wasn't just like boxes that I could jump off and then I'm safe. No, it was a catwalk. So I had to walk like a crab for at least 20 steps and down the stairs. And
At least
mind
it
you,
was the
some
right party. No one was gonna get offended.
well, actually, a lot of people, some people gasped and others clapped. Like I mean, it was just like a combination of emotions.
And this is funny because you need to know that when you're wearing the rubber and your outfit doesn't blow out, you're bold, you're brazen, and you're like Batman. And what happens to Batman when he loses his cape or if he loses his
His
rubber outfit? He
superpowers.
becomes Bruce Wayne. He's this wimpy
Yeah,
little
yeah,
dude covering his junk and running away.
yeah. And but what do you do? I went back upstairs and changed. And in case people listening have never worn latex, you don't wear anything under latex. You just wear your cruel, savage skin. There's just like nothing.
It's a
there.
second skin.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
nothing
yeah,
when
yeah.
you're
And you
putting
sweat, so when the air passes by, it actually feels really good. And then you're like, realize, wait a minute, what's
There's
going
something
on
wrong.
down here?
Yeah.
So we only have 5 minutes left, but we have a lot of things to talk about. Actually, that is the actual celebrations.
Okay, so no more tangents. Let's go.
But
Hit
no,
me.
but I loved that.
Yeah.
So what's happening for the celebrations this year, next
Okay.
month?
Yeah, so we're doing it again, and each time we try to learn from our. Actually, it's crazy. We break it down and start over. We're not the kind of people that want to take it easy and say, okay, that all worked, so we'll just add this. What we try to do is start over and try to ask ourselves, what can we do different? So each time it is going to be different. I mean, this time we're in a hotel that has a beautiful atrium. This time, what we're doing, instead of using like clubby beams to be like making it clubby, we want to change it to an absolute mood. So we're using these monster, beautiful wash lights that turn our atrium into candy, whatever color we feel like making it, whatever mood we want to give it. So we have access to the atrium. We have access to, and we have a DJ setup, and we'll be doing DJ parties in the atrium.
That, by the way, I DJ at some of the parties. We were talking.
Yes,
of.
absolutely,
Yeah.
and we miss having you. And
I'll be back.
Okay.
I'm almost out of
well,
retirement.
remember the rain check has existed for quite some time. So yes, we're happy to have you, and we know that you're an amazing DJ. So I can say that we've got DJ setups out at the pool area. We do daytime day club, where here in South Florida, a lot of people do these pool parties with a DJ and people running around scantily clad. What's crazy about our crowd, rather than running around in bikinis, they're running around in full rubber out in the sun. Half of them are getting
In
heat
May.
and
Yes,
getting heat
they have
exhaustion,
no- yeah.
and then literally we have to like have triage for these people. It's like, hydrate this guy, he's gonna pass out, So people really literally lose their minds, and they're running around. And in our community, we have rubberists where they wear layers of rubber. So there's head to toe rubber, then a mask, then on top of that is a rubber corset, and then rubber socks, and then gloves, and so on. So it's pretty really surreal to see under the hot Florida sun a bunch of people running around in rubber out of the pool area, but it's a blast.
But they get very creative for the pool party with the outfits too.
Yeah, I will say this is not a cheap habit. In fact, we realize that our survival is the fact that this stuff is not cheap. So we're able to actually monetize the garments, but these things, unless they're kept well and you need to do a lot of care, we're able to offer people maintenance ways to keep their product. But we know that nobody takes care of their stuff, so they blow out their outfits and have to come back and buy more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it's part of this that's the cycle of life.
But yeah, I wish we could keep talking. But I'm going to tell everybody that is listening that we have an article with all the key facts on toomuchlovemagazine.com with all the key information for the anniversary that is happening between May 21st and May 25th during Memorial Day weekend. And where can people get tickets?
So the best place to go to see what's going on with the event, and each day it's going to morph. We're populating the heck out of it. We have a site called FloridaFetishWeekend.com. That is the site just for that event. We make a page for each event that we do, and so our monthly events are found on FetishFactory.com. So that's where they go to find tickets.
Perfect. And then also for those listening, we are going to have a full feature on Fetish Factory on our scene that is coming out next weekend.
Yay!
In print.
Yeah,
So that's
awesome.
very excited. So thank you so much, Glenn and Danny, for being here.
Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah. And I'll see you in May.
And we love your studio.
Oh, thank you.
When are
Shout
we having
out.
a party here?
Yeah, right. We should.
Actually, that's a great idea.
A little.
Let's
Let's-
talk about
yes,
that.
we're going to pick the people we want, and we're going to have a little gummy party.
It's gonna be a very VIP party for maybe 30 people, 20 people. So if you're interested in attending to our party,
I
make
think so.
sure you can email us at info at fetishfactory.com. Okay, thanks everybody. My
Thank
name
you.
is Flor Frances, Glenn, Danny from Fetish Factory, and Too Much Love. And yeah, you can go to toomuchlovemagazine.com and learn more about the 30-year anniversary of Fetish Factory. And we're gonna say goodbye with actually, guys. We have a party too that we recently started with
Tell
Too
us
Much
more.
Love. That it's called Violetas. That it's mixes post punk, salsa, and disco.
Interesting.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Well, with the disco, this one here is Disco Danny.
Had me at this.
disco Danny. So our next party is gonna be on April. It's a Friday this time because we usually have it on Thursdays. It's on April 25th at Oikomoyer. So that's why we're gonna say goodbye with a remix of Donna Summer. Oh, really?
Make sure you create flyers and put them in Fetish Factory because we have a lot of people that come through want to know what's going on.
I'll do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.